formally starting this webinar today, let me introduce our participants as well as the person who is going to give his opening remarks in this webinar. First of all, Dr. Suresh Gautam is going to give his opening remarks. He is an assistant professor in School of Education, Kathmandu University. He has been associated with the international group of Transformative Education, and he has published many papers, research papers, and have been continuously serving as a researcher as well as assistant professor via this Kathmandu University School of Education. So Dr. Suresh Gautam is there. I will invite him right after introducing other three participants. Now in the three presenters. Now I have got three presenters today. Number one, Anita Tiwari Joshi, who is a scholar, MAd scholar, doing her MAd in Mathematics Education from Kathmandu University School of Education. And another, Chiring Tamang, he has been doing his one.
Interestingly, I chose economics in my grade 10, but when I filled up my school leaving certificate examination, filled up the form of school leaving examination, then I went for the physical education. And I completed my high school with a very average marks in maths and science, about 42 in mathematics and 52 in science. Recollecting my learning struggle, in math education, so I several times shared with Bal sir, Vinod sir, Indra sir, because as a colleagues, if there were no algebra, I could not have passed SLC examination in my lifetime. So, but the hangover of math and science still dominantly appeared because these were treated as an outcome of the very scientific and modern education. My grandfather insisted me to study ISC, right? And it was a distance dream. I could not do that. And then my father also saw an expectation to study ISC and ISC is agricultural science, but that was not under my control. So without anyone's decision, I chose, arts, liberal arts, right? Where I studied major English. Though it was a very weak performance in English, you even identify my score from my English language proficiency. I scored 34 out of 100 in English, just pass. So I was not, even I'm not a very brilliant student in terms of marks and grades, but I'm an artist. Artists were not, so brilliant in terms of grades and numbers. So in a way, I enjoyed studying political science. I enjoyed studying English major, fiction, prose, novels, right? And I had a bigger exposure with a bigger library when I studied. I was free from my parents. There was no force. So I gradually developed a kind of, artistic sense to be and to live my life. But one of the hurdles that mathematics again created when I was undergrad student, where I chose population studies, where we need to study quantitative techniques, right? Mostly statistical portion and certain mathematical portions. Then I became a kind of, strategic artist. How can I score and planned to score just pass mark? So I plan to address long question, right? 20 marks, 2 long question and short question, 1 short question. So I prepared only for 3 questions so that I can get 50 marks. That's enough for me. It was my, semi-final encounter with mathematics. But during those days, I was thinking something else different, right? Like when I go to river for swimming, or I just look at the trees, right? How these things, or how I interact with my parents, right? Or even my friends. So how am I able to connect with these matrix set theory that I studied in my undergrad? And then what happens, like my preparation went well. For I prepared only for 50 marks, and then just give me 5 minutes more, Indramani sir. I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. I think you are writing on notes. So that connected something else different, and I had a kind of detachment with mathematics, detachment with science, and I started interpreting these were not my kind of thing. But fortunately or unfortunately, I completed my master's and wandered like a vagabond in the world without any aim or objective. And one of these steps, I joined Kathmandu University again. And I encountered with the great mathematician is my supervisor in Anfield, right? And like I was more, I mean, rigid Western mathematician at that time. I realized in a way, the way I think, the way I proposed, the way I write, it was something else, very, very structured, very, very patterned. Though I mean, never try to look at from that particular aspect, that particular point of view. But all my thought was, I mean, set from my schooling to university, is a mathematician, always trying to calculate, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of ideas, right? So it's moving ahead. Then I tend to like a kind of engineer, right? It sometimes engineering self, sometimes engineering being, sometimes it's all engineering about the inside. It's a kind of cosmic engineering. So I tend to be like an engineer. I tend to think like mathematicians in many cases to derive claims from, the evidences that I have get, right? So life is moving around, rotating around, in an artistic way to find the connection of the different dots. So I missed those very important dots in my school education, especially in maths and science, though it has cultivated my artistic, artistic capability, artistic capacity, rather than mathematical and very scientific. So while trying to look at the nature around me, the rivers around me, and even the clouds hovering in the sky, right? Somewhere else, these were mostly connected with the factual reality, and that's the discipline which maths taught very interesting. And once I was reading more interesting thing about the sunflower, and that the pattern of 137 degrees, set, keeping the circle around it, that's mathematician call it a kind of golden ratio. How that sunflower, is a symbol of creating a golden ratio. So my, kind of understanding shifted, look at, so there is no any particular discipline that differentiate to each other, but we need to connect it in a meaningful way. Likewise, ultimately the meaning that I derive as an artist, so what artists do, like like the musician play guitar or other instrument, and they create a kind of pattern, like, and sculpture, they create a kind of pattern, right? The cinematographer in the movies and the film, right? The effect of their cinematography is to create a kind of pattern, right? So all these patterns, mathematics also create a kind of pattern. Like the earth creates a pattern to rotate itself. You might apply geometry and other things. not only the Earth, if we try to see the whole cosmos and the universe, everything else is moving around pattern. So if we try to keep pattern in the center of mathematical inquiry, or you can use scientific inquiry, artistic inquiry to understand maths, or vice versa. It can, be used in a way, in a rounded way. So that's a kind of awesome discipline. I start thinking of in a way, and it's not that my understanding was further cultivated with the companionship with STEAM educators in Nepal like Balchandra sir, Vinod sir, Indra sir, Netra sir, right? These all colleagues, I mean, trying to demonstrate their efforts to connect the different dots in a meaningful pattern, to look at life not in the outer world but even in the inner world, right? So we can have these influences, which was also reflected in the same webinar presented 2 weeks ago, that I got an opportunity to participate in that particular seminar, and it was awesome. How I forgot her name, but she brilliantly presented the use of calendar. How can we use in a calendar, teaching from grade 1 student to grade 8, 9, 10 students. So how the art, engineering, science, everything else get blended. So I request, I mean, you are doing a very awesome job to deconstruct the idea of mathematics, sine theta by cos theta equal to tan theta, right? And my teachers beaten me severely, both Masase Pita, right? So if you try to deconstruct, if you try to spread the message, look at that's not only mathematics or science, right, has been embedded in everyone's everyday life activities, and that could be a kind of transforming approach to be an educator. So I wish a very successful presentation. Today's very interesting theme on yoga and inner engineering kind of thing. So I hope that also one further steps to bring transformation in human life and non-human life. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Gautam, for your insightful opening remarks. Yes, we agree that our life is not actually embedded with mathematics only. We are not only limited to mathematics or any disciplinary subject or something like that. We are also embedded. We are also actually practically acquired with several 21st century skills that we need to run our life. That's why STEM education can be an approach that actually help us develop as well as our students develop different kind of skills that are related to our life. So now, before I start this webinar formally, first of all, I would like to again welcome all the valued participants from across the world. In this regard, I would like to just say hi to Peter Charles Taylor, professor from Murdoch University, Australia. Just open your video and say hi.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Indra. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you will stay until the webinar will end because you are also interested. Why I know that one.
Absolutely. I will try. Certainly, I'll try.
Pedagogy. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Cheers.
now I would like to invite the first presenter of today. Anita Tiwari Joshi, madam. If you are ready, then please share your slides and start your presentation. You will have 30 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Indramani sir. Thank you for giving me this platform, and thank you everyone, all the valued participants, to be here in this webinar this evening. So this is Anita Tiwari Joshi, and today I will be presenting on the topic hands-on teaching practices, and yoga is transformative pedagogy in mathematics classroom. So around this, I will be talking around my reflection on traditional to transformative experience, and I will be also sharing my experience as a learner and experience as a teacher in Nepal and USA. And then further on, I will be discuss about the math manipulatives. How can we incorporate these manipulatives hands-on activities in our classroom? And then at last, I have tried to come up with the idea yoga and mathematics, how we can again incorporate this interdisciplinary approach in our classroom. So to begin with, let me start from my journey. Is we From my schooling, हामीले अब स्कुलिङ गर्दाखेरि मेरो स्कुलिङमा अनि मेरो +2 मा अनि देन आई वुड से until my bachelor's, most of the classes were followed by lecture method. हामी सरहरूले बढी जसो क्लासहरू हामीलाई लेक्चर मेथड थ्रु नै स्टार्ट गर्नुहुन्थ्यो। अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ अब इभन द प्राइमरी लेभलमा पनि मैले रिकल गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ धेरै जसो अब एक्टिभिटिज बेस्ड सब्जेक्टहरू पनि
Anita ma'am, I'm just
Yes, sir.
requesting you, if possible, please deliver in English also.
Okay, sir, no
We have
problem.
also the foreign participants.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. I can do that. So in terms of our activity-based subjects, we used to have that one Purva Basic education. I'm not sure whether we have that subject right now or not, but back then when our teacher used to teach that subject, yes.
Vocational.
Okay. So they used to just leave the topics where we have activities to be done, and they used to say like, okay, these topics are not going to come in our exam, so we don't have to focus in that topics. So from then only, we are only focusing in the teacher-centered method. Our teachers are the resource of our knowledge. We used to look up to our teachers to get whatever problems we have. Instead of trying by ourselves, we used to ask them, and our teacher they ultimately used to answer them our questions. So another thing was while I was doing my schooling or my bachelor's, we were only looking for our exams. So what kind of questions will be there, so what pattern will be there, how marks they will be covering, so these kind of things. So we were not looking at our life skills. We were only looking at our exams and our grades. So that's why we could not able to apply these our learning experience in our real life. So that was my experience as a learner before. So if I have to compare that with my learning perspective now, then say now I am happily learning through collaboration method. Is my experience from Kathmandu University or from other areas, I learned to learn how to do activities from the collaboration method, how we can communicate to each other, so from collaboration, we can build up hard skills, soft skills together. We can do our teamwork. And the most important thing is we focus on our life skills, so rather than the exams. So we think like, okay, when we connect our content with our real life, we focus more than what we are learning from these contents, where we can apply these contents in our real life. And similarly, we're looking at our content of books or other areas, other disciplinary subjects. We only rather not only looking at the contents, we're looking at our life experience, what we have learned in our life, and where we can apply these experiences in our academic areas or in our personal life. So it was my transformative journey. And so now as a experience as a learner, after joining the Kathmandu University, and before that, if I need to talk about my experience, then the best thing I have learned is skills are only gained by doing hands-on. If we do something, if we learn something and if we do something, then only we learn, we make that sustainable in our life. It's just not for the moment, but it's it keeps with us for our lifetime. And similarly, as our teachers and our friends in Kathmandu University, they put more focus on, they don't put more focus on curriculum, sorry. They provide us the content, but they always say like we should go beyond these curriculums. You know, whatever we have given in this Moodle, we have Moodle. So whatever that's given, that's just the minimum thing we have to learn. But we can maximize our learning, our knowledge, through our other areas of uh, looking for learnings. And other thing is, so right now, as I am a learner, I don't concentrate on my grades, on my exams. I don't think so only like what grade I will get, but I focus more on my life skills. So what am I getting from this chapter? Where can I connect this with my life? Such as like when we read our learning theories in education or other subjects. So before, I only used to think these are just theories. We have no application of these theories. But right now, when I went through again in masters, I got to know that these theories belongs to our life, our learning. So what stage we are learning what, and how can we learn, how can we go further and tackle with our difficulties. So these kind of things, if we apply in our real life, our learning gets more deep understandings. And next, I would like to share my experience as a teacher. So is I have I didn't teach a lot of time in Nepal. I just did some home tuitions and just 3-4 months of teaching after my graduation. Even that time, I was using the lecture method, whatever I have learned from my schooling. So I didn't focus on how can children learn better in a better way, rather than I was just giving them rote memorization on of definitions, formula. How can I let them remember these mathematics terms? So this was the thing I had before I moved to the USA and I started working over there as a teacher. And what I the best thing as a teacher I learned over there is, let the kids to make a choice whatever they want to do, right? Whatever what are the interests of theirs, in what way they want to learn further, rather than focusing on curriculum and just say, okay, we have this and we have to do it anyway. We used to use in our classroom that, okay, if so. And again, another thing is like we used to focus in the interest of students, and different students have their different learning abilities. uh, in order to teach perfectly, we have to focus on these areas as well, and construct these types of teaching strategies to make the better learning. And another important thing, I would say the best thing I know about is the curriculum. As in Nepal, we have one body and that provide us curriculum, and we have been asked to teach accordingly. But there in USA, while I was teaching over there, I found that there's a curriculum, a high level curriculum that has been built by state level, and then they used to send it to the schools, and schools gave that authority to teachers, the classroom teachers. How can they improve it according to need of their students, interest of their students? How can they modify it? As a teacher, we used to work on like not only even the curriculum, we used to um, evaluate their previous grade and their right now what are they interested in, and we used to talk with them about that. And then we used to build a curriculum for a week or for 2 weeks, for a month, like that, so that we can continuously give assistance of the students. So that's all about my personal experiences. And now I'm moving further to mathematics manipulatives. So what are the mathematics manipulatives? Mathematics manipulatives are such concrete objects which we use in our classroom to understand our students in the abstract idea of mathematics. It doesn't have to be, very hard. We can use anything from our daily life. So let's say these manipulatives helps us on uh, to construct their ideas, and how can they strengthen their logical skills while doing this, while playing with these manipulatives, while working through these manipulatives. And another thing is, while we provide these manipulatives to our students, we should always remember that we should always let them play with them whatever they want to do until they figure out something. And once they're done, then we can come up with their ideas, and then we can teach the further whatever we have planned. But before that, to get their thinking level, to make them problem solver, and their to deepen their understanding in mathematics, we have to let children play with these manipulatives. uh, so manipulatives, some basic manipulatives I have included here. These are not sufficient, but I just put some basics. We can have more, and even we don't have these, we can use anything from our household, from our kitchens, from outside, like pebbles, beans from kitchen, or just a paper cut, whatever is available and whatever we can make. So the first one I have included here is counters. So counters are anything, as I said, the beans, if we can use something from our household, or something like buttons or some blocks, so which are identical. Basically, we can teach them from to help from these counters how to recognize numbers and counting, and also they can and do mathematical operations from these counters as well. They can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division as their level goes up. So the another thing is fraction strips. They are again very useful in give understand about numerator and denominators to students. I will be talking further about this in my next slides. And another is building blocks. Building blocks are very good for teach students to make comparison. So when they make wall out of these blocks, they can compare like which one is larger, which one is smaller, and also they can do counting with these. Another thing they can do with building blocks is they can learn patterns, mathematics patterns. If they have multicolor blocks, they can keep putting blocks one by one, and in a pattern, and we can make them understand about the pattern. And another the basic manipulatives is shapes. Shapes are everywhere. We can find them in our schools, outside, in our homes, everywhere. Or we can just cut the papers, or we can buy some from stationaries. These are the great ways to introduce geometrical ideas to our students. And another is clock. From clock, we can teach our students how to make calendars. When we make our daily schedule in our school or at home, they can learn at the clock. They can look at the clock, and they can say, okay, this is the time, and slowly they will learn to know about the time. And I think this is a great way to make our students or our children's discipline as well. So here I will be giving one this hands-on activity about fractions. So basically, fractions, students find it difficult to get the concept of fractions when they see a whole and then the part of that. They just looking at the numbers, they don't understand that. So to make it clear, we can let them do the these are called the fraction tiles. If we don't have, we can make these tiles with the construction paper, with the multicolor construction paper that are available in market. So we can do this project, this activity among with the students, so that they can learn they can experiment all the things whatever we have done, and they can visualize the mathematics inside that. So here we cut the paper in the same size, and we put one as a whole, and then we have done here the 1 by 2, the part of this 1 by 2 is a part of that whole, and we'll keep doing that for the certain numbers. So here now then we can ask our students to place some fractions, away from this tile, and let them make a comparison. So when they will see the 1 by 2 is bigger than 1 by 4, so this is how they can make a number sense out of these tiles. And further we can do addition, subtractions, other fraction operations from these tiles. The another hands-on the thing we have available in household is we can teach our children as a parents as well. So this activity includes the apple or any other fruit or any vegetable or anything we have available. So here we can make a group of students. It depends on our classroom size. If we let's say we made here a group of 8, so and then we provide one apple to each group, and then we can provide knife and pliers and whatever needed tools of, required over there, and then students cut these apples by themselves. And by the time they are cutting the apples, we can tell them, okay, this is half, and when we cut it again, this is 1/4, and then when we cut one more time, this makes a 1 by 8. And in this way they will see, they cut this apple by themselves and they tried it, and then they can connect this with our real life, with our daily life. And then after cutting the apple, we can ask children, students, to share these slices to each of their friends. And when they share to their friends, and then after eating them, they can proudly say, oh, we ate 1 by 8 part of apple. And this is just a simple activity we can demonstrate. And here is my another topic that I'm going to discuss today is yoga and mathematics. Yoga and mathematics, these both are inspired by nature. We sit, we walk, we do yoga. And in mathematics as well, it's everywhere. We don't have to explain about this. Mathematics is everywhere, same as yoga. So what has said that 90% of the stimulation and the nutrition to the brain is generated by the movement of the spine. If we just do some activities related to our spine, or it can be anything, so the most of our nutrition goes to our brain. So in this way, we need more focus, more concentrate, more energy on mathematics. We want our children to be more focused in our classroom. So it's a great idea to incorporate yoga in our math classroom, while children children can learn math with fun. So again, yoga, we can teach yoga with mathematics in different branch of mathematics. It's not in only one. So here are some activities I try to come up with. At first, we can go from the basic levels. We can teach our children operations and shapes from the yoga poses. Here, while we do breathing exercises, like even not exercises, just breathing, we can ask our children or students to count how many times we inhale and how many times we exhale. And it's as simple as when we are walking, we can ask our students to count how many steps you walked. And also we played skipping, jumping jacks, we can ask kids to count as they're doing it. And then we can ask them to pause for a while and then start again. And then again, let's say they have done it for 20 seconds at the first time and 20 seconds for another round. And then when they do addition, they know what's the result. So simply they can do mathematics. And similarly, some simple instruction while holding the poses. So while holding the poses, we can ask our students to do mathematics while doing the asanas. Just say 8 plus 9. So they are doing it and they are doing mathematics together. Here, asanas means yoga poses that we do. We say asanas to them. And another thing I forgot to mention before, that before doing yoga, safety and safety need to be the first concern. We have to consider our students' physical health, whether they are ready to do it or not. So after doing that, we can incorporate yoga in our classroom. If students can do that, they can draw the pictures, they can draw these figures in their notebooks, and they can also get some insight from there as well. So another thing we can do from this poses, like they can get the idea of shapes, like let's say in this picture, like the first picture, she's doing the down dog pose. So in down dog pose, we can see that the pose is making triangle between the body and legs off. So here we can see triangle, and similarly while doing this plank pose, we see this rectangular shapes and circle and stars. As we are demonstrating these poses to our students, they get more fun. They love to learn yoga, altogether math, and sorry. Here, the another interesting activity I come up with. Here, let's assume any numbers with any yoga poses. It doesn't have to be this. I just come up with this idea. Let's say 2 is this mountain pose, 4 is for this star pose, and 6 is for this chair pose. We're going to tell this to students, and then we can ask our students to do that. I mean, like say 3 of them or 2 of them, they just can do it. And when we add these, we don't say here add 2 plus 4, we will say add mountain pose and star pose. And if we ask them, eventually they will get to know this is a chair pose, because we have assumed these with our numbers. And the next one we can teach mathematics with yoga is angles. This is for like 4 or 5 grades. We can demonstrate in our classroom. Here, different yoga asanas can represent angles. In the first picture, if we see, there's a triangle pose, and we can see the body and the this leg is making an angle over here, and this looks like less than 90 degree, and we can say it's an acute angle. This is not the exact, this is just approximate angle, or we need to have protector to measure the exact angle at degree. So we can say by looking at the picture, this is 90 degree. And in another picture, when you look at this kid here, he's making an L shape, and there's a angle between the stomach and the leg, and here is he's making a right angle, the 90 degree. So after demonstrating this picture, or the teacher can demonstrate by them himself or herself to the students. And if we as a teacher, we're ready to learn, we're ready to do, our student will be more encouraged to do the poses and more encouraged to incorporate yoga in their daily life. Here in the second picture, this pose is again making a 90 degree angle here, and the another one again with the body and the legs is making acute angle. And another one we can say between the elbow, there we can say this looks like more than 90 degrees, and it will be obtuse angle. And here in the fourth picture, between the floor and the body, it's again obtuse angle. So to demonstrate these ideas, we have to the student has to have some basic level of angles and geometry, then only they can figure it out. And once this is just for to connect their learning with the daily life, so they can get the deep understanding out of these activities. And the another is this warriors two pose. Here we can see different angles by different joints here. Here we can see the arms are making 90 degree right angles, and these hands are making 180 degree the straight angles, and the front leg and front leg is making 90 again, and the waist is we can see waist 135 degree, and again the back foot is making 180 degree of angle. So these are just to make the clear concept of angles to our students, as they get curious to do more yoga, and they are try to come up with these poses, because these are not easy, as we can see, it need a lot of practice. So once they keep doing it until they found this angle, perfect angle in their body, they will be happy. It's like a challenge for them as well, where we can say they are solving some problems, which is um, ultimately enhancing their problem solving method. Here another activities we can do with yoga is statistics, where we can make a pair of students and ask them to measure their friends, um, with holding the mountain pose and extending mountain pose. They can use any unit of measurement. Here we ask them to use measure their friends from head to toe, head to heel, and write them down in their copy. And once they are done with measuring their friends, then we can ask these to find the difference between two different poses, the height in while they are doing mountain pose, and the height they found while they are doing extending mountain pose. And they can find the difference over here. And another thing what we can do is we can ask, the teacher can collect the data from students and ask the student to find the mean, median, mode, and range, these statistics terms. So when we were reading statistics in our schooling, we used to have a long data, and we have never told that where this data comes from, and we sometimes we feel so bored to do that. If we make this kind of interactive activities in our classroom, the students will know that these the data came from themselves only, from their friends, and they get more interested in doing this. And the last activities that I have come up with here is breathing exercise, which is a great way to calm and get concentration of our students. Here we can just ask our students to concentrate on their breathing, and they can count how many in and out. And again, we can, if they like, let's say we can ask them to count within a 10 second. We can put a timer and ask students to do breathing exercise, and they can then tell us that they can just like they did 10 inhales and 10 exhales. And later we can ask our students to find out from the numbers, find out how many minute, like in how many exhale and inhale they can do in a minute, hour, or day. And also we can ask our students to match the number of inhales and exhales. Let's say they inhale and exhale 5 times each, and then we can say, okay, you have done the even proportion of in and out. So these are just some exclusive list that I have come up here. We can do more and more in advanced level or in basic level. We can use our creativity to teach our students in classroom. So the last thing that I would like to tell, that how yoga and mathematics as a transformative STEM education, how yoga and mathematics can incorporate with transformative STEM education. So here in transformative STEM education, we talk about the change, the social change. So while we, teach our children to do yoga in a mathematics classroom, uh, you know, uh, keeping all the disciplinary things behind. So then that time our kids are learning to do some physical activities which are going to help in their life. And as they went home, they can ask their parents, right? They learn mathematics through yoga, and they can motivate their parents to do the same. So in this way, the parents can motivate family, and they can motivate community. So this goes on. Here we can say the education, the concept we come up with is, eventually it's education for social change. And here our students are as a change agent. They work as a change agent. Again, we tried to come up with the yoga. We did some um, daily life or outside world activities that will eventually connect with our daily life, and they will make a deeper understanding of this. And another thing that we want to make our education sustainable. So sustainability holds while students do something for long times, they follow that for their lifetime. So here, when we incorporate yoga in their classroom, and when we motivate them to learn mathematics through yoga, they are achieving something for their lifelong. They are learning to be calm, they are learning to be focused for their life. And the best thing is they are learning to be active physically. And the last but not the least is their focus is on their soft skills. By giving providing all these activities, our students gain deeper understanding on the concept. Also, they build other soft skills like communication skills, leadership skill. They learn more creativity. They can they can critically think, and they know how to solve the problems. So these are some things, these are some insight that I try to come up. That's all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Anita ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. Yes, now because when I just listened to you with your during your presentation, I also try my best to connect my knowledge and skills that I have learned throughout my experience with my daily activities. Just I was thinking, how can we connect? So yoga can be one ways of pedagogy. I mean, so one pedagogical approach that help learning meaningful. So there are so many things across our culture, uh, in our context, in our community, that can be incorporated in our teaching and learning mathematics. Not only in mathematics, we can also actually explore so many knowledge and skills that are hidden in yoga. So thank you very much, Anita ma'am. Now let me questions if there are there in the chat box. Let me see. Uh, Here, I think a wonderful presentation. Would love so wonderful ideas, wonderful presentation, great presentation, Anita ma'am. So you have got praiseworthy words here. Thank you very much. So here one Sagar Dal is written here, yoga plus maths is equal to yoga math. That's interesting. In order to, I think if we say yoga plus maths is equal to yoga math, that may be, but in the holistic approach, why can we think is that only 1 plus 1 is equal to is not applied in our life. 1 plus 1 can be 1 plus 1 is 2, but more than that we can actually achieve, because after we get 2 skills or 2 knowledge or something like that, we can actually enlarge that knowledge, enrich that knowledge holistically, so that we can bring out some other new ideas in our life. So I think I cannot see the questions out there here. Excellent presentation, great ideas out there. So I think Binod sir, Bal sir, shall I move to the next presenters, or
Sure,
there
yes.
is a question?
I don't think any question there. But
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So now let me invite the next presenter, Mr. Chering Tamang. Chering sir, I would like to start sharing your slides here. So he is a scholar from the same university. He is doing his 1 year MA in STEM education. He is from the first batch of our 1 year MA in STEM education, which is more professional program in our university. So, Chering sir, please.
Thank you, Indra sir. So, with your permissions, I'm sharing my screen. So, I hope my screen is visible. Is it visible, Indra sir?
Yep, yeah,
Yeah,
it is
please,
visible.
please move ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Indra sir, and thank you, Q, for this opportunity to share my understanding and practices. First of all, I would like to thank, okay, so dear Bal sir, Suresh sir, Vinod sir, Indra sir, and respected all the participants. So today I'm going to share my presentations, my understanding and practice of Makerspace as a STEAM scholar. Welcome all. My name is Chiring Tamang. I'm a STEAM Scholar 2020. So moving ahead with my presentation, so I'll just talk about myself first. So I'm from the non-educational background, so I'm totally unaware about the educational practices uh, within the Nepal and outside of the Nepal. So that is very much new for me to joining in the KU. But I have interacted with the teachers and the students of different schools during the course of our workshop and the trainings that we have been conducting in my workplace. So that makes me realize that I have to know about the education practices, because since I'm dealing with the teachers and the students, that makes me feel that I have to uh, leverage my learning through the educational practices, and also I have professionally encountered with this team while conducting the makerspace programs at my workplace. So on doing so, I heard about the STEAM education course in KU through a good friend, and ultimately I joined the STEAM educations to boost my learning, self-learning, and enhancing my knowledge of STEAM as well as the makerspace. So talking about my outline, this is my outline. So my presentation is totally depend upon my understanding and practices. So there might be different assumptions on your side, but this is my understanding and practices that I have gained in KU as well as from my professional background. So I will be talking about the makerspace. What does makerspace need? How makerspace works? I'll also talk about the Makerspace project that we have been doing, and the various forms of Makerspace and my practices before joining KU and after joining KU, and why Makerspace. Moving ahead, what is Makerspace? So if we see the meaning of makerspace, I think it's made of two words, maker and space. So the maker should be there and the space should be there. That's my general understanding. If we see the philosophical mm, meaning of the makerspace, it is a constructivist and constructionist movement. So Grayston 2014 has also described that makerspace is more than a space itself. It is a mindset that can and should be taught. So while attending one STEAM workshop that Vinod sir has been conducting, he also clearly expressed that STEAM is also a mindset. So somehow I relate with that, with the makerspace. So another Flamingo 2015 has clearly stated that makerspace is about turning knowledge into action. So it is more practical based, hands-on training kind of thing. So compiling all those philosophical meaning and understanding, I have come up with my meaning of makerspace. So it is a collections of resources that enables making. So while enables making, I have figured out four different other components beside space. So tools, projects, mentors, and skills. If we see tools, it is related with materials, technologies, machineries, or maybe it also related with some kind of AI in current context, artificial intelligence. So if we see the project, without project, Makerspace won't run. So project basically talks about the ideas that we have, problems that we are facing or will be facing in the future, maybe some kinds of innovations or discoveries. So those are the components that falls under the project for my understanding. So mentors, again, mentors plays a very important role. So mentors can act as a facilitators, act as the experts. We can outsource them, or during the collaborative work, our peers or our peers can also be the mentors for ourselves and for themselves as well. So it's a win-win situation between the two or more than two participants who are working in the makerspace. So if we talk about the skills, it enables both enhance both soft skills and hard skills. So there should be a certain kind of basic level of skills while you are working or using the makerspace. So this is my general understanding about a makerspace. Moving ahead, so what does a makerspace need? So basically, if we talk about the need for the makerspace, maybe it might need a clean or dirty space, or maybe a noisy or quiet space, manpower, open lab, or just a classes, dedicated space or not, or fun. So makerspace can exist all of these components. So it could be noisy while working, while using a heavy equipment, or maybe a machinery kind of things. Clean and space, yeah, it will generate different kinds of wastages, and it needs to be clean as well to conduct various kinds of quite planning meeting or something like that. Manpower, definitely makerspace needs a manpower to operate that makerspace, to overall oversee the activities, welcome the makers in the work in the makerspace, or sometimes for the janitorial kind of things, let's say for the procurement kind of thing. Also, we need a manpower, separate manpower for oversees all the activities and day-to-day activities in the makerspace. So it could be open lab as well, or we can also make our classes converted into the makerspace. Again, dedicated space or not dedicated space. I will be little bit talk about that thing in later my presentation. And the most important thing is font. So we should have a font to create a makerspace or to convert any space into makerspace. So without font, I don't think makerspace can exist. So we need a funds to even purchase the resources for the makerspace, or maybe hiring the experts or mentors for our makerspace user. So how does the makerspace works? Again, please, these are my personal understanding after joining the KU. So first, identify problem. Without problem, I don't think a makerspace can work smoothly. So we have to figure out the problem first, or if it's not there, then we can also ask for the problem from our clients, or from the community who are looking for the possible solutions. So after that, sorry, oh, my computer. Okay, so then after identifying the problems, we need to brainstorm. We need to discuss. We need to discuss within our group, or maybe with the experts around this. Right, utilize the technology. Even we have to discuss the resources that are going to be used to generate this possible solution for that problem, and then we'll pick one best possible solutions for that problem, and then we combine the hands-on materials for making the probable solutions for that problem. It could be a prototyping kind of things, or maybe generating the real concrete solutions for that. And for that possible solutions that we make or we generate, we'll test, and if it doesn't work, again we'll repeat from the brainstorms, and again the process will be continued until and unless we accept, or until and unless we come up with the desired outcome. So connecting with this team, I think from identifying problems to repeat, we all see the components of STEAMs in each component. So we can integrate a STEAM in all these 5 activities that I have listed here. So the Makerspace projects, what will be the Makerspace projects that we can do in our Makerspace? So this is the basic few examples that I have listed here. So it could be coding related with maybe the computer software. Scratch Junior and Scratch is the most popular one. Soldering, electronics, Arduino, robotics kinds of things. I've also put one pictures over there. Ultimate robot kits, learning circuits, electricities, swing maybe there working with wood furnitures, or simply taking a session in the Makerspace, inventing, 3D printing, or laser cutting, and most importantly, we can even conduct the project that we have been creating or we will be creating in our classroom. Classroom can also be conducted in the Makerspace. So that means we have to, if possible, we can convert our classrooms into the Makerspace to run all those STEAM-based projects, or I would say the STEAM-based planning that will plan with the lesson plan. So what are the various forms of Makerspace? So first, again, it's a classroom Makerspace. We can make our classroom, or we can convert our classroom with Makerspace by arranging resources that requires to run the Makerspace. Physical Makerspace, there could be a separate space for the Makerspace beside classroom, beside school. So these are the form. For example, we can also take the Nepal Innovation Center that the Mahabir Punsa has running. So it is a kind of makerspace. I wouldn't say it's a makerspace, but it is a simple example of a physical makerspace. Digital makerspace, we can also use a web portal to collaboratively work with the different peoples around the world to generate or to develop a project digital platform. So that is digital makerspace. And lastly, it's a mobile makerspace. We can take a makerspace into different locations. We can use four-wheelers, three-wheelers. So it could be a bus, a truck, or anything with all the resources that is useful for the makerspace. So this could be an ideal makerspace for the classroom. We can see in the pictures, though it's not clear enough, but we can see there's a coding areas, there is a Lego areas there, down there, robotic areas also there, Makey, media creation is also there. There is a 3D printer section. So we have to divide our classroom into different makerspace sections so that the students can go there and enable their making skills. So other forms might be, this is a simple example that we can easily convert our classroom into makerspace. So we can see these forms in the preschools. So we can see there are a lot of resources that enable making for the children. Children can gradually pick or randomly pick any materials that they require, and they can use those resources in making and show their creativity and crafting of various concrete object or concrete possible solutions. So another form is a cart. We can also use a cart, though it is not much costly, but if we maintain a makerspace resources in a certain place, and we can use the card to take those resources into our classroom, so that we can make the classroom familiar with the project-based learning, or maybe the makerspace kind of things. So again, this is the ideal makerspace that we have in my workplace. So going into closures, there are tool sections. There is a separate cabinet. We sealed it with a glass so that we can easily observe what is inside, and we can also, during the works or during the session, we can easily identify which resources are in which sections of, so that it will be easy for us to pick the resources from the cabinet. So if we see the makerspace and resources, it's totally different. So resources are all those materials and equipment. Maybe it could be a manual book or a user guide, or we can also put mentors as a resources also. But makerspace include resources itself. There should be a working place, a crafting kind of things, a workplace, something, or a workplace where the making happens. And on the basis of the demand, or on the basis of the requirement, we can also be able to hire or call the mentors who act as a facilitator, experts, or maybe some kind the peers itself. So there should be an environment also. There should be a making environment. Environment also plays very important role in making space. So talking about my practices, I put two major components past years before joining KU and moving ahead. So basically, what we used to do is we run a makerspace session for the second level students, and the students who are from the, or who are from the architecture background or engineering background, and various teachers training, and also run the session for the professional. So the sessions are of an hour session. Sometimes it is a long project session, which is around 24 hours to maybe 30-hour session. So we divided that sessions into weeks. So it could be 8 weeks, 10 weeks, or 12-week session. And in 1 week, there is a 3-hour sessions in a day. So on that basis, we divided, or we segregated those hours into weeks. And workshops and training. So workshops, basically 3D printing workshops, laser cutter workshops, all the equipment related workshops and trainings. And sometimes we also do conduct a best practices sharing. We're visiting experts from the foreign country. They host the best practices sharing to the local participants. So we do conduct that session. And if I observe after joining the KU, I figure out that the Makerspace, from my understanding, it was separated. So it was not there it was not there. Makerspace and the teams are separated in the past years before joining the KU. That's my observations. And moving ahead, if we see, and now what will be the best possible other okay, so other thing that I could do after joining the Makerspace. So I'll be targeting student as a whole. It could be primary, secondary, or maybe the pre-primary students can easily join in our space. Youth of all the what do you call, all the age groups, or maybe the skilled or the unskilled people who can easily visit our Makerspace, and they can enhance their skills further. So again, I could also focus on the membership kind of thing, so that anybody can easily come and use our Makerspace to enhance their learning, and they can also. So for my laptop, is sorry for that. So membership, again, Makerspace is itself a prototyping kind of thing. So we enable our members, our patrons for prototyping kind of thing, innovation. It encourages innovations and discoveries, and most importantly, it enhances all the users to develop their problem solving skills, or the 21st century skills. And on doing all these activities and all these what do you call the services we'll be providing, I'll be generally interlinked or integrating both Makerspace and Steams together. So though it's already there in Makerspace, but it was not clear on my mind before joining KU. Now I came to know that Makerspace and Steams are a kind of related kind of thing. So that will be my observations. And if we see why Makerspace is important, it's very learner-centric opportunities. It offers the authentic learning experiences connecting to the real world, and it helps prepare students for the futures, as it enables the 21st century skills through the Makerspace activities. It helps to prepare the students for the futures. It addresses the differentials and multiple intelligence while working in a group or collaborating with the various people in the Makerspace. There'll be multiple agencies and differentials. intelligences, engage community and invite cross-generational learning. So I've already stated that it's while doing testing, you ultimately have to visit or go to the certain community or certain outside world, so that there you could receive the feedback, so that you can engage in your learning, or you can integrate in your learning interdisciplinary reflections of real life. Uh, it will also, I would say, there is a transdisciplinary approach in the makerspace as well, but for as a part of the school learning things, we can mostly relate with the interdisciplinary reflections of real life, and makerspace act as a catalyst for change, since it enables discoveries and innovations. It might be a catalyst for change, for solving the sustainability issues in the world currently facing. So these are the few pictures that we have conducted in our spaces or make space activities, crafting some kinds of coding related group discussions, or maybe maker tools. So talking about my background, I have completed MBA in 2012. So working in FNCC from last 19 years. But currently I'm working as a program coordinator at IHF Kathmandu, which is a joint collaboration between the US Embassy and the FNCCI. For kind reference, IHF Kathmandu is the American space. We provide library service, online accesses, maker space, incubators, lot of resources, programming spaces, and many workshops, and we conduct many workshops and trainings for everybody. So incredible thanks to Dr. Balchandra sir for providing his valuable, insightful information, suggestions, and feedbacks. Even be up one of the students of his, Binod sir, as a stream head, he's been involving in providing me insightful feedback while preparing my slides. Inumani sir for providing this opportunity, and all the respected course facilitators of ML STEAM 2020. And huge shout out to my classmates, STEAM 2020 classmates, my employers, both the FNCC and the USMBC, and my better half. Managing a professional life, family life, and education life is very challenging without very much understanding and the cooperative better half. I won't be able to join KU. So thank you for her as well. This is pictures that I have posted here. So I'm explaining. I was explaining about the Makerspace 3D kind of 3D printing how it works or something like that. So thank you all. Stay safe. So this is my email address. If you can. Thank you, Namisha.
Okay, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, Sering Tamang sir. Yes, actually, if we understand in a simple meaning that everywhere we can actually develop maker space, at home, at a school, in the classroom, wherever it is comfortable. And it is not necessary that we need very much costly or what we say valuable materials that we need to buy, but we can develop it through the local materials as well. So thank you very much. There are so many, as I said before or earlier also, that there are so many things that we incorporate in our learning. For that, we need different kind of teaching learning resources, materials, and those can be actually incorporated in a classroom so that a student can directly connect their learning with the help of that materials that are available in the Makerspace. Thank you very much, Sering sir, for your insightful and wonderful presentation. So before I invite the next and last presenter, I would like to also inform you that we do have two genuine professors from Kathmandu University and Murdoch University, Australia, who are going to speak about how all the themes and the knowledge and skills that we have gone through today can be connected, can be contextualized in the classroom, and how arts-based pedagogy can be helpful for meaningful learning. That's why I request all the participants to bear with us till the end. Now, let me take some questions if there are in the chat box. Great presentation, great sharing, sir. So here, thank you, sharing, sir. A wonderful presentation, great, wonderful, great. So here, Anita Joshi is interacting with the participant. Suraj Das Shrestha, I still remember the moments of establishing the Makerspace. I have Chiringji, okay. So, so many praiseworthy words I can see here. I think, yeah, Chiring sir can also read out these all, and you should be proud of yourself as well as Anita ma'am. And I think there is no any questions. Maybe how challenging it would be teacher teaching. This is related to the previous presentation. I think I move forward because I don't see any relevant questions or important questions that I can see there. Thank you once again, Chiring sir. Now, let me invite the presenter we have got today is Madan Rizal, who is also a scholar from MPhil in STEM education from Kathmandu University. So, Madan Rizal sir, will you please share your slides and start your presentation? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity and giving me this time to share my actually my practical implementation of one of the small approach or one of the small idea of STEAM approach in my teaching learning area. So that's what I would like to share in my today's presentation. Please be with me just for a while. I'm about to share my screen. Indra sir, is the slide visible?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet.
Yeah. It started. Please.
Okay.
Just a minute. Yes, please move on.
Okay. Hello and namaste to all. It's me, Madan Rizal. I'm a MPhil scholar in STEAM education in Kathmandu University, and being a responsible STEAM scholar and being a mathematics teacher, I have tried my best that how can I implement the STEAM approach in my teaching learning classroom. So among so many ideas that I have been confronted or that I have been going through, I found one of the theme so much interesting. So I tried my best to implement this topic or this idea or this project, let's say, in my teaching learning classroom, and I got so many like a kind of like very good understanding or a kind of a very good feelings or good experience through this STEAM approach. So through this presentation, I would like to share what kind of experiences that I went through during this STEAM project. So that's what I'm going to share through this presentation, and I'm very much thankful to all the designated respected professor and even doctor for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. So the project that I had designed for my learners was rainwater harvesting and filtration. It was a STEAM project. So I would like to move further that what are the experiences that I faced during the process of implementing this project, and also what was the actually background that coming up with this idea. So if I talk about the presentation synopsis, that means what are the things that I am going to incorporate in today's presentation. These are 8 things that I'm going to incorporate in my today's presentation. Indra sir, is the slides are being changed?
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so if I talk about the background of the project, that means I would like to actually, this project actually originated from my experience as a mathematics learner in school education or during my teaching learning practices. So if we see or if we try to understand or if we try to unpack our experience of teaching and learning, particularly let's say mathematics or whatever the subjects that that have been doing in our curriculum practice, then there we can see a kind of different discipline of knowledge. A kind of separate subject-centric approach can be experienced or can be seen in our pedagogical practices. That means a kind of compartmentalized approach can be seen, like different discipline of mathematics, science, English, Nepali. So a kind of detached or compartmentalized pedagogical approaches can be seen in our pedagogical practices. So while coming up or while discussing about this idea, then the idea of pure versus impure, global versus local knowledge, these things are very much like kind of controversial or very much like fighting things all the time. Like what are the things that we have to incorporate? Either we should pursue towards the pure knowledge, or we may say global knowledge or Westocentric knowledge, or we have to focus on our local knowledge or contextual knowledge. So there is a kind of always like a kind of a conflict among our learners, even among our educators, like what kind of thing or which process or which approach we should follow, so that the all idea that can be incorporated in our pedagogical practices. So basically, if we talk about our pedagogical practices, being as a learner and being as a teacher right now, I have been experiencing that learners' voices, their interests, and their opinions are rarely being counted. Their ideas are ignored almost most of the time, and they are forced to do rote memorization. They are forced to do painstaking practices for the sake of a sit for test, like sit for examination point of view. And most of the time, if we try to see our classroom pedagogical practices, then teacher takes the authoritarian role and then plays the whole game. That means teachers do everything, whatever that comes under inside the classroom, and compel learners or compel students to follow him or her exactly, or his or her instruction exactly. And we can see that the banking pedagogy is deeply rooted. That means teachers pours the knowledge to the learners, and students are considered to be receiving those learners, being like a blindfolded devotees. So these kinds of practices that I faced as a learner, and that's still going on in our pedagogical practices. Now, moving further, we can also in kinds of conflict condition of knowledge as a whole versus knowledge as a compartment. So these kinds of conflict still going on in our pedagogical practices, and we can see that lacking in connecting textual concept with a real world context. That means we can see a kind of distinction, we can see a kind of like a detachment between textual knowledge and real world problem or real world context. So these kinds of things can be experienced in our practices, which somehow in recent days slightly being like recognized, and they are trying, the educational scholars are trying to get them in connection, but still we are so far to do so. And even learners seem to be unable to achieve higher order skills, like different kinds of skill, hard skills, soft skill, even liquid skill. These kinds of skills are far from our learners. They are unable to achieve these kinds of skills from our academic learning. And even good rank holders are finding themselves in confusion and is ill-skilled. So so basically we can see a kind of hegemony of disciplinary egocentrism. That means this subject is superior, this one is not so superior, or it is inferior, this one is not so important. So that kind of disciplinary egocentrism, particularly I myself is a mathematics teacher and a scholar also, but there is in our practices or in our context that mathematics is greater or science is greater than other subject. So these kinds of disciplinary egocentrism, this kind of hegemony can be seen in our pedagogical practices, and there is a difficulty in acquiring various soft skill and hard skills. So due to that reason, one size fits all approach is so much well embedded in our pedagogical practices, especially in higher education. Somehow in lower cases in primary and even kindergarten, somehow learners are engaged, or learners are empowered to do some kinds of activities. But as we move towards the upper grade, then these kinds of one size fits all approach is very much embedded in our practices. So being as an MPhil scholar, it's my responsibility to do some kinds of thing or try something, at least from my side, inside my classroom, so that my learners can understand, or learners will be able to at least realize like what is outer world, or how the different disciplines can be connected with each other, and so that different skills and different ideas can be incorporated, so that they can be real world problems, and even they can feel like they have learned something for their life, rather than just learning for examination point of view. So due to that reason, I have come up with this idea that the rainwater harvesting and filtration, this STEAM project I have designed for my learner. So the main objective of this learning of this project was learners will be able to list out the need of conserving the rainwater, and even they will be able to do the setup by using the locally available materials, and even for the rainwater collection and filtration process, and even they will be able to use the pH meter or pH reading paper so that they will be able to measure the acidic and basic nature of the water for various sources, and particularly rainwater. So these were the purposes that I had set for my project. So if I talk about the project location and duration, then it was conducted among the grade 8 students, and the project was prolonged for 5 hours teaching period. So now, if I talk about the material required for the project, the materials that we use in our project, then the materials were 2 PVC drum. Indra sir, am I visible? Am I clear, sir, till now?
Yes, yes, please move ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Because I need to know, because most of the time I will be disconnected. I may be disconnected. So, and PVC pipes for connection, and even pH reading meter or paper, and sand, and gravel, and charcoal or coal, whatever is provided in our context, and even thin plastic net, and drilling machine, and small gravel. So these were the materials that we arranged or that we managed for this project. Now, moving ahead, I had to create a kind of rubrics for formative assessment of my learners, so that they will be so that I may know what are the difficulties they are actually having, or what kind of area, what are the area they are actually being empowered. So due to that reason, I prepared these rubrics with the help of my professor also. So these are the rubrics, and there are and I created some spaces also, blank spaces also, so that other attributes or other criteria also can be incorporated during the practices. So these are the criteria that I had decided for my learners, so that based on these criteria, I could assist them, I could help them basically in formative manner. So if I talk about the STEAM components in this particular research project, project work, STEAM project, then science was basically incorporated with the idea of rainwater harvesting. That means why it is essential to harvest the rainwater, and about reading the pH, about the measuring the pH value of the water, and purity of the water, and even gravity concepts. So these concepts were incorporated in this project, so that learners will be able to understand these things, particularly in science area. But actually, I'm not trying to detach it. And if I talk about from the point of view of technology, then within the same project, the use of pH meter or paper to test the purity of water, and various ICT tools using like cell phone, like computer, and other kinds of ICT tools, they were quite engaged to be using during this project. So that's why technology has been incorporated in this way. And if I talk about the engineering part, then during this project, our learners, they designed, and they do the entire setup, and even they went for prototyping also. So this is how engineering can be seen, engineering features can be seen in this project. And similarly, in case of arts, which is actually very core idea of this project, where the learners were so much engaged in creating poem, essay, and sketching the setup design. While talking about the poem and essay, they were they had come up with so many so nice poem and story, and even essays, like why water is to be preserved, or why it is essential to conserve the rainwater. Now, if I talk about the mathematics component in this particular project, then various measurement works had been incorporated, or had been involved there. Like they were so much engaged in measuring length also, even temperature also, weight also, and liquid measurement also. So many measuring aspects were there. So in this way, the STEAM, all 5 components were incorporated or embedded in this particular project. Now moving ahead, The project was basically guided by the 5E model, 5E model of the project, 5E model. So where engagement, exploration, explanation, elaboration, and eventually evaluation. So these five steps or phases were incorporated in this particular phase. So now let me move ahead with the each one thoroughly. Now in first phase, the first phase was engagement. So in this phase, I tried my best to raise the students or my learners' interest about this particular theme, that why rainwater harvesting is essential, or basically why it is essential to like preserve or conserve the water for our daily uses. So these kinds of interest grabbing idea were conducted in the first phase. So I tried my best to drag my students' attention towards this particular project, and I encouraged my learners to raise their question and even come up with some critical thinking about the project. And even I tried my best to like encourage them to come up with their prior knowledge, like what kind of knowledge or what kind of practices they have been doing in their like home or in their surroundings. So I just come up with this all idea, and I was so surprised that they were quite open to share about all these idea and explore all those things also. And during this time, I just merged, or I just asked help with my other teachers also, like science teacher and even other subject like Nepali teacher. They came up with so open heart, and they helped me a lot during this project. So this was the first phase, that was engagement, and the second phase was exploration. So in this particular phase, the learners, the students, they engaged themselves in exploring various things, like as the theme was rainwater harvesting or conservation. So they were quite engaged, that like engaged in the process, that how rainwater or how the water resources can be uh, preserved for long-term use or for sustainable development. So these kinds of brainstorming thing, discussion, like collaboration, cooperation things, they went, these all things went inside the classroom. So they come up with different various nice idea. So and these kinds of interaction took place during the class in case of exploration part. And in third phase, explanation. So in this part, they come up with so many nice idea. As I said earlier also, they come up with like essay also, they come up with some poem also, pictures also, and they tried their best to explain that why this particular like project is essential to be conducted or to be moved ahead, so that our society can be benefited through this project. So these kinds of various idea, like poem, drawing, essay writing, and even other ideation project, they come up with so many nice idea, and they presented inside the classroom. So this was the third phase. And in case of fourth phase, elaboration. In case of elaboration process, they they went to the field. That means now they went to the actual working ground. Let's say they went to the working space, and they worked a lot to create like the thing, or they try to come up with the idea that how this rainwater harvesting can be done, and how the filtration process can be managed in school perimeter, so that the actually they will be like they will be working in a real world context, that whatever the things they had explained inside the classroom, now in elaboration step they went out and they come up with, or they engage in various activity like through various hard skills, and they try to like manage, or they try to set up the whole project design. So in elaboration process they did so, and they went through various practices, and they went through various activities, like they measure everything, they manage everything, and they all everything they did during the elaboration process. Now in final phase elaboration evaluation step, both I tried my best to evaluate, not in summative manner but in formative manner, so that I can empower them, so that I can encourage them to proceed ahead with their various other kinds of activities. So for that, as I said earlier also, I came up with certain idea of rubrics, so that through that I could actually know what kind of understanding they were having during the project, though it was not all in all, but through this I could actually sense some part of it. And similarly, I took the learners reflections also. It was also very important idea, or it was very important document for me to know what actually learners went through during the process. So due to that reason, I collected their reflections also, and their reflections were really nice, and some of were negative also. And that also I just I just took it very positively, because I should know those things as well. And even they come up with very nice presentation for their all design setup. So through these various idea, through their collaboration, cooperation, I could evaluate them in a formative manner. Now, if I talk about the learners attribute through this project, I don't say this is the only project which help them all learners to grab all the various attributes, but through these activities somehow my learners became more like they went through communication. They started to communicate with each other rather than competition. Now they started to communicate, collaborate, and even they try to come up with various ideation. And most important thing, they were being critically they were doing critical reflection in their various activities. So these sorts of features I could see among my learners during the activities also, and after the activities also. Now, these are the project this is the project gallery, which my learners are so much engaged in their various activities. As you can see, small pictures where so many things are going on among my learners, and they were quite engaged during this project. So these are the references. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this time and hearing me till now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madan Rizal sir, for your wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed the way you have presented your themes today. So actually, what I have also experienced in my life is that we usually, as a teacher, we usually are so disciplinary centric, or we always love our subject that we teach. That's why we always try to give the value to our subject, which we usually teach in the classroom. So because of that, now I have realized that there are so many students who are victimized due to our this type of practices, disciplinary practices that we have seen. However, what we have realized in our life is that all the subjects are incorporated in our school education, not only to actually make students aware about mathematics is the best, or science is the best, and the language subjects are poor. We don't need to study those poor subjects, not in that sense, but actually all the subjects, all the disciplines have equal values. Directly or indirectly, these all subjects are have been actually helping us to realize the problems, to dig out the problems and solve those problems related to our life. Thank you very much for insightful presentation today, Madan Rizal sir.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
now before I'm going to actually say goodbye to all, we still have two dignitaries here. One is Peter Charles Taylor, and yet another well-known Balchandra Mittal sir here. So I will invite, first of all, Peter Charles Taylor. Before that, let me check out some questions out here, if there is any pertinent questions, because just a while before I couldn't see any questions. I think I couldn't see any question out here. That's why now let me invite Peter Charles Taylor. He is the professor. He is the professor of Transformative STEM Education, Murdoch University, Australia. He is also the director of International Transformative Education and Research Network, that we call in short form. And he has been director since 2018 to present. And he has been actually, he is not the new name for us. He has been with us for more than a decade, helping and guiding us in our different university programs. Not only that, but he has also been in touch with us every now and then in developing our innovative educational programs. He has published many research papers, and yet I can see there are about 7,624 citations of his published research papers. That's interesting, and that's great. And this shows how he has been contributing to developing educational practices nationally and internationally through his research practices. Fortunately, I was also a lucky person to have him as a external examiner of my MA and MPhil dissertations. Not only me, there are several other students from Kathmandu University who were actually examined by Peter Charles Taylor. So let me welcome Professor Peter Taylor.
Namaste. Thank you very much, Indra, for that introduction. Much appreciated. And as you said, I've been connected with Kathmandu University for well over a decade. In fact, I think it was 2006. I must have made my first visit to you. And I was working closely at the time with now Professor Balchandra Luital. And it's been a wonderful experience seeing the world-class development of education led by Kathmandu University. And I don't exaggerate one little bit. And I think today's webinar and the recent webinars that I've been fortunate to participate in have certainly demonstrated that KUSOED is a world leader in educational theory and educational practice. So I think you asked me today to speak a little bit about the arts, yes? I mean, the danger is I could speak about everything, but I think you've given me about 4.5 minutes. So let me reflect on the presentations of today and say something about what the arts means to me. And then I will leave today's presenters to reflect on the way in which they've incorporated aspects of the arts into their MEd projects. And I must say these MEd projects are very, very impressive indeed. I have a slide here, Indra. I'm not sure whether it's possible for me to project that. Is it within this meeting?
Yeah, I think. Please try once.
Yeah, you can. There is a
Zoom,
present now button.
Yeah.
Present now button. Yeah.
Present now button. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
next to this hand, there is a hand, and then.
Yeah, I can see the hand.
Yeah. Next to is.
Yeah, I've got that. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I've got two screens. I'll just drag this one across to there.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. Let me go into full presentation mode. So when I think about the arts, these are three very important aspects that I think we can profitably incorporate into our STEM education endeavours, and therefore making them into STEAM education. So this is not restrictive, there's more to it than this, but I think these are three very powerful aspects of the arts. And these aspects have been demonstrated, at least in part, in the presentations today. So arts. Now this refers to literature, it refers to writing and communicating in writing in a particular way. So for example, when the last speaker was talking about his 5 E's model, and he talked about students giving explanations, usually in STEM, we encourage students to use an objective voice, which is, we often call this it language. So I doesn't exist, and we do everything we can not to personalize our writing. However, in STEAM education, we're really interested in knowing what's going on inside the students, not just their cognitive processing, but also their hearts, their feelings, their emotions. And so in order to tap into that, to make that explicit, we can ask our students to write in a narrative form. So they're talking about my experience and when I did this and when we did that, and the impact on me was the following. So we can encourage our students to talk about their feelings as well as about their thinking, because the two in fact go hand in hand, and often we repress our students' feelings in traditional STEM classrooms. So narrative writing is so essential. Another form of writing we can ask our students to engage in is called storying. So narrative, it can be simply saying, you know, this is my experience. Storying can be a sort of a semi-fictive approach where you can make up a story to illustrate whatever it is that you're interested in. So if you're, for example, the students who are doing yoga, they could write a story about their experience of doing yoga practice and how that might be a useful and engaging experience. There's a lot more that we can say about literary arts. I mean, I speak about the arts from a transformative learning perspective. And so I'm very much interested in how we get our students to communicate firstly with themselves and then secondly with others in processes of negotiation. And really important part of the arts is the visual arts. And there was plenty of that demonstrated in the PowerPoints that we saw today, where our presenters were illustrating their ideas using images in particular, very skillful use of artistic images. We can also engage our students in other forms of visual arts, such as painting and making sculptures, very tactile experiences. You know, sometimes we sort of tend to privilege the left-hand analytical side of the mind when we're teaching, but there's also the right-hand side, the creative side, and we can activate the creative side through engaging students in expressing themselves in images, painting, sculpture, and so on. The other aspect that I find very, very appealing is the performing arts. Now, this is a whole body experience. And we often use this when we give our students theatre role plays. For example, we give them a story and we ask them to play the characters in the story. It's kind of like giving them a script, and they need to turn what's in writing into an embodied action of their own. And so we can engage our students in drama performances, and in role plays as well. So these three forms of the arts, I think, are very, very powerful, and they have a great role to play when we bring them into a relationship with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Let me just now say what sort of impact what sort of elements of life that the arts can stimulate and develop. Well, the first is obviously creativity, and we saw plenty of that in the presentations today. How students are engaged in acts of creativity using the imagination. And that seems to be the major focus for many people when they talk about STEAM. They limit it to how do we engage students in making things, designing things, evaluating things. And that's good, but there's much more to it than that. For example, if we want students to develop an appreciation of the natural environment, an appreciation is most readily developed in students through developing their sense of beauty, to actually fall in love with the natural environment. So we can emphasize aesthetics, and we can do that when we're using visual arts, particularly images that we bring to bear in our teaching practices, and we can ask students to portray their relationship, their love of nature, using any of these forms of the arts. Spirituality, again, it gives a very strong connection between students' religious and cultural frames of reference and the world around them. So, I encourage STEM educators to really consider helping students to appreciate the beauty of the natural world. Ethics. Now, a number of the presenters today were indicating, for example, that it's very important to be able to measure rainfall. Because why? Now, here's an opportunity to expound on the values of sustainable development. What happens if climate change comes along and melts the glaciers and the rivers start getting minimized and drinking water starts getting scarce? So we can immediately relate scientific and technological measures of, for example, rainfall with eco-justice issues and bring out sustainable development values in a very explicit way in our teaching practices. And likewise, in relation to enhancing students' cultural identities, multicultural identities. You know, traditionally, students have come in to classrooms throughout Asian countries, and they've been required to leave their cultural identities at the front gate and come in and develop a very much a Western modern worldview. We're now moving into a much more multicultural perspective on life. And so it behooves STEM educators to find connections between, for example, mathematics and students' home cultures. And boy, didn't we see that with Anita and her yoga connections. I thought that was absolutely wonderful, absolutely marvelous. So ethics, ethical values, moral values, you know, it raises big questions like, you know, why do we have education? Why do we have schools? What sort of people are we trying to graduate back into society, into community? Traditional STEM subjects don't really address that at all, but the arts allow us to ask those questions about the teaching of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And finally, number 4 here is rhetoric, and I've already touched on that. If we want students to be able to express themselves in very meaningful ways that include not just their cognitive ideas, their thoughts, their concepts, but also their feelings, their emotions about their learning, about their own personal development, then this rhetoric is the label given to that aspect that the arts brings out in people, learning to express themselves, learning to be persuasive rather than dogmatic, be able to engage with other people in communication that is both mutually respectful and persuasive. So the arts provide us with very, very powerful tools that we can bring into STEM to create rich, multidimensional STEM education. Something that is lying behind what I'm talking to you about today is a very, very powerful theory of education, a very powerful theory of learning. And a couple of people today have touched on it explicitly by saying constructivism, and that's a really good starting point. But my theory of learning and education incorporates constructivism, but goes much further than that. And we call it transformative learning and transformative education. And right now, Indramani's probably wishing I would hurry up and finish. So I better do that because I'm getting close to elaborating on my favorite subject. So let me just pause there and say, you guys doing your MEd projects, you're really on the right track. You're making use of some wonderfully powerful ideas. And I hope that as you're engaging with the arts, you might find a way to enrich your understanding and use of the arts in your MEd projects. So great work. Keep it up. Back to you, Indra.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your insightful presentation. Though it was an accidentally, actually, I invited you. You actually accepted our offer. Thank you very much. Yeah, of course, actually, what as a mathematics teacher and a learner, what I also have thought that mathematics is about only calculation, number, and something like that. And later on, when I joined Kathmandu University, I got an opportunity to learn so many things related to this teaching and learning. So I started, can I now imagine in mathematics, can I value from the perspective of mathematics, something like that. That's why not only we should think about our learning and teaching from a particular disciplinary approach. Rather, we have to also include this arts-based pedagogy that helps us to imagine, to create, and to go further innovative ideas. So I seen one question here, interestingly, from Sunesh Das Shrestha to Peter. Hi, Peter. What do you think of user-centric approach while designing the solution as part of ours? Peter.
Oh, okay. I fell in love with it, actually. I thought, what a wonderful way of culturally contextualizing the teaching of mathematics. Now, maybe I'm a little bit naive. I'm sure that yogic practices are reasonably common and embedded in local cultural contexts. Maybe not for everybody, but certainly for many. It's actually getting a lot of traction in the West as well. So how do I see the arts in relation? Well, it is a form of, if you like, performing arts. The students are engaging in whole-bodied movement, including breathing and to various asanas. So that allows a representation visually of the mathematical shapes associated with the various asanas. So I think the arts have a very strong relationship with the way in which yoga was presented as a form of pedagogy. Think about it like that. It's a form of pedagogy. I think, yeah, Paul, Indra, see how that goes.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, I would like to request you to stop sharing, I think. Yeah. So now before concluding today's webinar, let me invite yet another our well-known Professor Balchandra Luitel. As we know that because of him, I personally and proudly say that because of him, we are grown as a teacher professional, as a learner professional, whatever we say. And our programs in Kathmandu University, the credit mostly, first of all, goes to Balchandra Luitel. Though we have been working as a team, like Assistant Professor Binod Prasad Panta, me, myself, Niruz Daha, Sir, Netra Kumar Manandar, and Rosani Raj Bhandari, and Rameshwar Prasad Aryal, Parvati Ma'am, and all. Sorry for that, I could not take names of others. We have a team and we are working. Because of him, our educational programs have been successful in this stage. So I'm proud to say in that way. So let me invite Professor Balchandra Luitel to share an idea about how these things that we have gone through today can be contextualized, because without contextualizing these big ideas into our context, we cannot actually provide meaningful learning to all those students. That's why, as you know, that he is a professor at STEM Education Department in Kathmandu University. He is also recently advisor at Community Engagement Division, the office of the Vice Chancellor, Kathmandu University, Dhulikhel. He has also published number of research papers, and you can see in the Google Scholar that he has 700 citations out there, and I would actually love to quote him as an innovative learner, planner, and educationist. Thank you very much. Please, Professor Balchandra Luitel, I would love to invite you and have few words about today's theme. Thank you very much. And as well as please conclude today's webinar.
Okay, thank you, Indra sir, for this introduction again. Thank you once again. I think Peter has spoken about arts, how arts can be used for the purpose of transformative learning, for the purpose of improving STEM education, and also education in general. So I will briefly talk about consciousness, how education is related with consciousness, how this STEAM education is about raising our consciousness. and making you know, next generation cognizant of the world problems. So you know what, our you know, students presented, they are in that continuum in the continuum of different forms of consciousness. So when we have, for example, we think of passing a degree, then probably we have a kind of, you know, professional sort of, we would like to raise ourselves, we would like to improve ourselves, we would like to develop our competencies. That's one level of consciousness. And then probably we are also interested in improving our professional practice so that many students and community people will be benefited from our improvement. You know, because of us, the students will be benefited. Because of us, schools will be improved, schools will be better. So I think that is another consciousness, another level of consciousness, another approach to our educational, you know, development. And beyond that, we probably are more interested in transforming or improving educational system structures, cultures, to benefit more, not just improving our classroom practices, not only limiting ourselves in classroom practices, in pedagogical practices, but going beyond that. What does this mean? This means working for, you know, more empowering curriculum, more curriculum that promotes authentic learning, curriculum that promotes, you know, problem-based learning, curriculum that prepares students to solve 21st century problems. You know, the crisis that we have been facing. So these are the hallmarks of our thinking, of our educational thinking. We are not here just to prepare some, develop some competencies, some discrete competencies. Competencies are also important. Skills are also important. Mechanical works might also be okay, but they are not sufficient. They are not adequate to improve, to transform our educational system. So that's why, you know, consciousness is very important. Consciousness in Sanskrit, in Nepali, in our everyday language is called chetana. That chetana is very important. So raising our chetana, raising our consciousness is more important than one or two some discrete skills. Because once we raise our consciousness, then I think we'll be able to develop our competencies and skills that are required to convert those consciousness into that, our consciousness into practical kind of, you know, contextualize in our setting. So that is what I have to say. I think all these three presentations, as Peter already said, I would say that they raise consciousness. For example, from Anita's presentation, that mathematics is not just about manipulating symbols and algorithms. It's more than that. It can be connected with yoga. It can be connected with, you know, everyday practices. So this raises the consciousness about the about the nature of mathematics. Second presentation, it's about Makerspace, that, you know, learning is not just going through the pages of books. It's also application. It's also working with tools and working with everyday materials. Makerspace here, it's Hiringji made a presentation. It's not just about 3D printing. It's not limited to 3D printing and hi-fi, you know, gizmos, you know, modern gizmos. We can have several locally available materials in our Makerspace, so that students will be engaged in creating, you know, 3D models, mathematical models, and other models which can be useful in their day-to-day lives. So, and that is also one step further than, you know, teaching, putting students in row and column and teaching them, like making transmission of knowledge. So that is one step further than more transmissive model of pedagogy. If students are engaged in makerspace or worker space, and they will work, they will be engaged in hands-on activities. They will, and, you know, is not just academic, logical, mathematical, or linguistic kind of learning. It would be more kinesthetic learning as well. So kinesthetic intelligence, kinesthetic ways of knowing can also be practiced there. And the third presentation by Madan Rizal. Madan is an MPhil scholar, and this is part of a coursework that a project is part of his coursework that he developed and implemented. Although he has a mathematics education background, but he also incorporated other components in his project, and that's also one step further than teaching math, science, technology separately. It's combination. It's, I think, STEAM is more than just STEAM. It's beyond STEAM. It's about solving the problem. It's making them aware about the problem around us. So there was an article in one of our online portal some months ago that that article was written by a teacher, and it was written in Nepali. गाउँमा पानीको अभाव थियो, म चाहिँ न्युटन र आइन्स्टाइन पढाइराखेको थिएँ. In English, there was a scarcity of water in the village, but I was teaching Newton and Einstein. So this is the state of science education. That was the reflection of teacher, and actually Madan's presentation showed the alternative. So if we are to contextualize science, math, technology, engineering, whatever we teach, we need to actually look into the problem that we have been facing locally and globally. So with this, thank you once again. Thank you, Peter, once again for being with us today and sharing some of your thoughts. It's always good to have you in our, this kind of programs, because you always remind. I always, it reminds me when you talk about art back in 2003, 2002 and 2003. It's been 17, 18 years. Because these ideas were so new at that time, and again they are still new. They are still so powerful. They still need us, and as well as the presenters, students, and also Indramani Sreshta sir, you actually ran these sessions so well, and we actually accomplished this without any difficulties. So thank you, and thank you all of you for your participation. Thank you.